Hello, you all. It's your girl Tiffany, Madam Luscious Black Beauty, your poetic psychic Pisces, High Priestess, aka the light that shines like a diamond, also known as your modern day nun who doesn't live in a coven or a convent. I am here today for another one of my story times with Poetic Psychic Pisces, High Priestess. I do thank each and every one of you for listening and for watching. If you would be so kind, at some point in time throughout this story time, if you would like, share, and subscribe, it would be greatly, greatly appreciated. As always, a brief disclaimer for tonight's story time, which is entitled When a Side Piece Don't Know Their Place. I just want to say that this is original work by yours truly, myself. Of course, at the end, I always show you all the rough draft of the fact that it's my own original work that I have done. However, of course, I like to always say that this is in fact original work, okay? It is not pertaining to anyone's life in particular. It is not speaking to any specific persons, okay? So I just want to let that be known. This is like literally an original short story right off the top of the dome, okay? Y'all know how I do it. Okay, guys. So, I think that pretty much sums up the brief disclaimer for tonight's story time. I thank you all for listening and for watching, like I said. And without any further ado, guys, we are going to get into tonight's story time, which, like I said, is entitled When a Side Piece Don't Know Their Place. You know, sometimes things in a relationship don't always go as planned. Your intentions are good, but no matter one's efforts, being realistically in life, shit just happens. As was the story of Mr. and Miss Sanford. Daniel Sanford was a very fit and muscular, handsome 35-year-old Caucasian man, as well as his wife, Karen Sanford, whom was a gorgeously made, caramel toned, thick in the waist, beautiful in the face, 37-year-old woman. Now, Daniel was naturally a hardworking, no nonsense kind of man. Although the pair of them had no children, Daniel was indeed a very good provider. Karen, nonetheless, was very much independent in her own right as a businesswoman. Sassy but classy, and indeed a Karen for sure, if I may add. She's often identified as being rather bougie, stuck up, a nag, and pretty damn sure of herself. You know the kind. The one whom is always right and everyone else is wrong. Not to mention, she never hesitates to complain at any given time. So much so, she is literally has a personal rapport with managers all over her town. Nevertheless, now married for 6 years, the relationship has become rather boring and uncomfortable for Daniel Sanford. Although he loves his wife dearly, because of the couple's years age difference, Karen does nothing but nag, pester, and try to control Daniel, whom feels like no matter how hard he tries, nothing is ever good enough for that woman. Karen is so full of it, she actually expects to always get her way, and she's a total bully if she doesn't. Her needs, wants, and desires come first, and Daniel's come secondary, if at all. However, Daniel hasn't even fathomed divorce, but he has found himself in what started off only as an emotional affair with a good longtime friend of his. Yet for the last 2 years, the affair has become romantic and sexual in nature. something in which Daniel has become rather fulfilled and highly satisfied with, as it seems very therapeutic to him, which helps him cope with the endless drama at home. The only problem is Daniel's mistress has become very fond of him, and the pair of them has seemingly fell in love with one another. Daniel, however, assumed everything to be fine with his side piece at least, but at home the fights and arguments had increased because by now Karen had noticed Daniel's distant, standoffish behavior within the relationship. Not that it really much mattered anyway. Karen was so bossy and controlling, she even planned the couple's sexual encounters, which was only about 2 or 3 times a month, or better yet, when she felt like it, which wasn't that often. Needless to say, Karen had no idea of the affair, as she thought surely she was the end all, be all for Daniel. Daniel's mistress, however, whose name is Mandy Stewart, had grown very worrisome over the absence of Daniel when they were apart. Frustrated with their arrangements of their secret situation, Mandy began to get awfully petty, careless, and reckless with her behavior. Daniel tried reassuring Mandy nothing would keep them apart for too long. Oh, but no, Mandy wanted more, and she wasn't going to take no for an answer. You see, Mandy Stewart was only 25 years old, 10 years younger than Daniel. They met on the job. Mandy worked in customer relations, and Daniel was an electrician for the same company, which is how their friendship began after getting acquainted at a company meeting and banquet. Mandy was a beautiful bronze Latina whom was top heavy with natural double D sized breasts, a slim waistline, and bow legged. She was funny, fun, loving, and outgoing, and she loved to dance. Daniel found Mandy to be so charming, but they were honestly only friends for several years, and Mandy surely knew about Daniel's marital status. But when their relationship went from friendship to emotional commitment to a full blown sexual affair, Mandy's feelings soared and got the best of her. Mandy felt like, why should Karen have a husband she didn't appreciate and just barely even made love to? It wasn't fair, and Mandy was beyond tired of the same old lame losers trying to holler at her that only wanted to fuck her and leave her hanging. Mandy then, without Daniel's approval or permission, decided she was going to stop at nothing to ruin Daniel and Karen's marriage. Mandy had no idea what she was really getting herself into, and Daniel had no idea the beginning of the end was near. Karen, however, was in for a rude awakening, but how she would respond is beyond epic. Daniel and Mandy continued their affair without interruption. Karen, unaware, was often away on business trips, still relentless in her neglect towards her husband. The couple's last argument before the wife's trip, which was an honest attempt for Daniel to try to make their marriage work, was about when they were going to start having a family, and Karen not working so much, seeing Daniel was expected to pay all the bills. Something in which Karen gave a ridiculous, gullible laugh to, because she felt it was in no interest to her, because she had no desire at all to have children and had no plans on stop running her own business, although she had plenty employees to do so for her. Karen stormed off while yelling across the room, "Oh, stop being so emotionally dramatic. It's not that serious." Funny, coming from her mouth when she was the queen of drama, overly emotional interactions, and the theatrical events, Daniel thought to himself. Regardless, Karen left and was out of town for a week, during which time Mandy couldn't be more pleased, seeing as she and Daniel spent the entire week together. They both took vacation time off with pay from work, and all week long they rendezvoused together in a fancy bed and breakfast lodge suite near their home. This romantic getaway felt more like a honeymoon to Mandy. The love-making sessions were endless, and the two had lots of fun enjoying each other. All seemed well, and Karen didn't call Daniel even once. You'd think she was the one having the affair. But there was one main problem that neither Daniel nor Mandy thought of. During their entire 2 year affair, for the exception of the first 3 months, they never used protection, which soon enough will become a major issue if the pair of them aren't careful. So the week had come to an end, and it was time for Daniel and Mandy to part ways. Something that made Mandy very upset as she began to cry, practically begging Daniel to stay. Daniel simply replied, "I'm sorry, but you know I can't." Mandy's feelings was hurt and her heart felt crushed. But anger began to build up and boil inside of her as the two said their goodbyes. Daniel returned home, and but of course, it was an argument right away when Karen got home. It seemed she had called not only the house phone, but Daniel's job as well. Daniel was shockingly surprised, and Karen got all up in his face, screaming, "So, where the hell have you been all week?" Daniel thought, oh my God. He had no idea what to say. He had just deflected the situation by saying, "What does it matter? It's not like you care." For the first time, Karen was suspicious and knew something was going on with her husband. Ironically, she actually acted like she cared, even though she was mad as hell. Daniel never did give an explanation, just saying after their last argument, he was so upset he just wanted to be left alone. Karen wasn't buying it and knew it was more to the story because she knew her husband. Daniel knew he was cutting it close, trying to juggle both his wife and an affair. So he made his next move, which would prove to be not only complicated, but dangerous as well. Karen, feeling like she was losing her husband as he slowly slipped away, decided to try to rekindle the romance they once had. Much to Daniel's surprise, his wife put it on him sexually like she had never done before. They enjoyed a romantic candlelit dinner and a passionate, erotic fuckfest in the hot tub. There was even an open discussion amongst them about starting a family, a conversation in which invoked by Karen herself. Daniel finally felt wanted, needed, and desired in his marriage. Who knew all it took was for Karen to feel like her husband was cheating on her. Yet and still, Karen had no idea about the actual affair and just how long it had gone on. Daniel felt conflicted, but he knew what he needed to do. So on the next work day, Daniel invited Mandy to lunch. Mandy was excited and happy to see him, what she believed to be her man. The lunch, however, was short and sweet. Daniel apologized to Mandy as he expressed how much he cared for her, but he told Mandy that he had to break off the affair because he and his wife were going to try to make things work. To say Mandy was mad is an understatement. She made a big scene in the restaurant as she stood up, slapped the hell out of Daniel, and she yelled, "How could you do this to me, you no good bastard?" Daniel, ashamed, proceeded to leave, saying one final thing to Mandy. "You knew damn well I was married." Mandy replied, "You're going to regret this, Daniel." Daniel turned around and said, "Oh yeah? Why?" Mandy said, "Because I'm pregnant, and I will tell your wife." Daniel shook his head. "You wouldn't dare." Mandy rolled her eyes, grabbed her purse, and said, "Just try me and see. Now, I expect to see you tonight at our normal meeting place, say my house, around 8. Mandy ran off in tears while Daniel stood there puzzled in fear of what was to come next. Daniel surely didn't want Karen to find out. He had no intentions on meeting Mandy that night though, but he also knew it would crush her. 6 years of marriage and 2-year affair. How in the hell could he get the mistress pregnant? Daniel thought to himself in silence. By the time Daniel made it home, his wife was in the kitchen cooking dinner. Daniel couldn't believe his eyes, and that his wife had actually canceled her business meeting just to cook for him, which she never did. The evening went on, and the couple enjoyed a nice meal and cuddle time during a movie together. It was around 9 p.m. when the pair of them decided to shower together and go to bed. But around 9:30 p.m., the anonymous phone calls began. The mysterious caller would allow the phone to ring, then hang up once they answered. This childish behavior went on all night long until 12:30 a.m. Finally, the madness had stopped, or so the couple thought. Karen asked Daniel, "What's going on?" And he replied, "Honey, I don't know." But Daniel knew without doubt Mandy was behind the call hang up little game she was playing. It was now 1:30 a.m. in the morning, and Karen and Daniel had dozed off when all of a sudden there were loud bangs at the front door. Startled awake, Daniel ran to the door, but once he opened it, no one was there. This continued over and over again until 3 a.m. By now, Karen was furious, demanding to know why these things were happening. But Daniel couldn't find the courage to tell his wife what was going on exactly. At 6 a.m., both Daniel and his wife were up and about. Although tired, they prepared themselves for work when once again, at 6:36 on the dot, the doorbell rang. Not expecting visitors, Karen had enough of the antics and was fed up with the mysterious, appalling events that had disturbed their life. So she angrily stumped off in her way to the front door. But of course, no one was there yet again. Only this time, a package was left on the porch. It was way too early in the morning for a delivery from the postman, so Karen undoubtedly knew someone else had left it there. Karen picked it up and slammed the door behind her. She made her way to the dining room where Daniel anxiously waited. "What's in the box?" he nervously asked. Karen's facial expression and attitude said it all when she replied, "You tell me," as she then threw down the package on the table. Then, without hesitation, they opened the box together, only to find another smaller box which was wrapped and a note. Daniel shrugged his shoulders and said, "You know, maybe this is just some kind of gag gift prank from the neighbor's kids." Karen shouted, "At 6 o'clock in the damn morning? I doubt it." Staring Daniel down like a hawk, she read the note, which said, plain and simple, "It's over. It's over now. Move over. It's my turn now. It's over. 'Cause your husband is my man now. Sorry." Daniel couldn't believe Mandy actually went this far, but when he opened the separate small box, he was speechless after what he saw, a positive pregnancy test. Before Daniel could think of a word to say, Karen flew into a rage. Karen cursed Daniel out something terrible as she punched, kicked, slapped, and scratched Daniel in the face. Her tantrum didn't end there as she threw things all over the place, breaking fine china, pictures, and all. All Daniel could do is run out the door to work as she made her way to the door behind him while he ran to his truck, yelling out the door, "Oh yeah, go ahead and run to your little whore, but you'll both regret crossing me." Daniel didn't know exactly what Karen meant by her last statement, but he figured maybe she would calm down by evening and they could talk. Daniel, however, rushed to work in a hurry to set Mandy straight. But when he arrived, Mandy wasn't there. After all the chaos, where could she be? Daniel thought surely she'd be at work. Considering her obsession with him, Daniel even called Mandy with no answer. This just didn't make sense to him. But whatever, Daniel went about his workday and figured he'd stop by Mandy's house on his way home so they could talk. But around 5:30 p.m., when he pulled up at Mandy's house, no one was home and her vehicle was gone. Daniel got a sick feeling. Something was horribly wrong. Nevertheless, Daniel headed home. Upon his arrival, things were awkwardly silent. The house was clean, and he found his wife between doing laundry and cooking dinner, but she didn't say a word to him. Daniel said, "Hey, baby, how was your day?" Yet Karen said nothing still. He decided to leave well enough alone for a while as he retreated upstairs to change clothes. Daniel just couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right at all. Mandy was missing and Karen wasn't speaking to him, which seriously worried him. Daniel just decided to stay in the den for the evening to figure things out. When dinner was ready, Karen didn't even alert him at all. It wasn't until around 7:30 p.m. Daniel found his plate on the dining table, and by now his food was cold. Karen was in her office with the door closed and locked. And after she finished in her office, she showered, then went to bed alone, being sure to lock the door behind her, as she obviously didn't want her husband near her. Daniel couldn't sleep at all because for the first time in his life, he didn't feel safe. He vigorously called Mandy's cell phone, but there was still no answer. Daniel knew Mandy wouldn't miss an opportunity to talk to him, but for an entire day, there was no sign of her, other than the disturbance from the night before and the package delivered. By next day's light, Daniel left for work as usual. Karen had already left the home as well without even waking him. Once again, when Daniel got to work, Mandy wasn't there. She hadn't called in either, which just wasn't like her. It was 10 a.m. when Daniel's phone rang. It was Karen. Daniel answered, and Karen calmly told him that they were going to the cabin by the lake for the weekend, so he needed to go home after work and get his bags, then meet her there. Daniel reluctantly, agreed, although he was very concerned about many things, especially when it came to Mandy. After all, they were good friends for years and grew closer and closer together because of the affair. Not to mention, if she was really pregnant, then Mandy was carrying his baby. End of the day had arrived, and Daniel went home to pack his things for this random trip Karen had suggested. On his way out, Daniel remembered he needed his tennis shoes, which was in the laundry room. He proceeded to grab his shoes off the rack when he noticed a familiar looking blouse on the floor. When Daniel picked the shirt up, it was covered in blood. Then all of a sudden, it hit him. The blouse belonged to Mandy. He instantly dropped it on the floor again. And just then, he remembered his wife doing laundry when he made it home the other day, when she refused to talk to him. Just then, the phone rang, and it was Karen. Daniel answered, and Karen said, "Are you on your way?" Daniel replied, "Yes. About to leave the house now." Then he hung up. Daniel didn't want to mention the shirt just yet. He nervously wondered how could the shirt have gotten there in the first place, and why was there blood on it? Afraid of what was to come next, Daniel called Mandy once more, but yet again, no answer. A million thoughts ran through Daniel's mind as he left the house to make his way to the cabin. Had Mandy shown up at the house that day after he had left for work, or what? Something sinister had happened. Daniel just knew it. Daniel made it to the cabin around 7 p.m. The lights were dimly lit, and the fireplace was sizzling away. Karen greeted Daniel in red lingerie. She took his bags and put them away, then suggested he join her in a glass of wine. Daniel was in no romantic mood and preferred a shot or two of vodka, but he complied with his wife's wishes. "So, what's all this about?" Daniel asked. Karen said, "Well, as you know, there are many things that we need to discuss." "Yes, indeed," Daniel replied. "Okay, then, well, how about we just sit down to a nice dinner first and then go from there?" "What's the deal, Karen? One minute you're so angry you're fighting me, breaking things, and not speaking to me. Now all of a sudden you want to be sweet and loving?" Karen became agitated and said, "How dare you question me, Daniel, as if your affair is my fault? Can you honestly blame me for my reaction? I'm not to blame here, you know." Daniel shook his head as he paced the floor. "Now, can we sit down to dinner or not?" she demanded. Sure, why not? Daniel said. Great, Karen replied as she walked away while her fluffy stilettos clanked the floor. Daniel made his way to the bar for a stiffer drink, and Karen prepared their plates. Daniel couldn't help but to worry about Mandy. Surely he loved his wife, but he didn't want to see Mandy harmed. Karen re-entered the room all graciously and stating, "Dinner is served." The pair of them sat down to a candlelit dinner, and just as soon as Daniel was about done with his meal, Karen offered to refresh his drink. Daniel was enjoying his favorite meal so much he was unaware not only his food had been poisoned, but his drink as well. A special potion concoction Karen brewed up herself. After the meal, Karen knew it would only take about an hour to kick in. Daniel felt a little tipsy, but he figured it was from the drinks. Karen led Daniel to the bedroom where she made love to her husband one last time. Just as she was about to orgasm, she reached up and handcuffed her husband, then whispered in his ear, "So, about that conversation you wanted to have about your little bimbo, Mandy." Daniel was too weak to move, and suddenly he felt sick. Only able to muster up a few words, he said, "What have you done, Karen? Uncuff me now." Karen replied, "Oh no, honey, I can't do that. At least not yet." Daniel, just barely able to keep his eyes open, said, How do you know her name?" Karen grew angry right away. "What does that matter, Daniel? The tramp has some nerve popping up at my house. The real question is, why didn't you have your hoes in check, Daniel? How could you get the hoe pregnant, Daniel? And furthermore, how come your little side piece don't know her place, Daniel?" At this point, Daniel couldn't get out anything more than a moan and a groan, as the poison was kicking in more and more, moving its way all through his body. Come to find out, after Daniel ran out to work that awful day, Mandy had been in the bushes near by watching the whole time. When Daniel left, Mandy went to confront Karen once and for all, which proved to be a fatal mistake. Mandy was loud and disrespectful from the moment she knocked on the door. She went on and on about her and Daniel's 2-year affair and how he loved her, as well as she was going to have his baby. Karen was beyond furious, demanding Mandy terminate the pregnancy because her husband wasn't going anywhere. Mandy laughed in Karen's face and screamed, "To hell with you! Don't you have some business trip to go on or something?" Karen snapped, picking up a vase and busting Mandy in the head. She fell backwards and hit the floor. Although still alive, Mandy was knocked out cold. Karen had to do something, but she knew she couldn't let Mandy leave. Karen then went to her husband's gun cabinet, put the gun in Mandy's hand, and pulled the trigger. Karen wrapped Mandy's body, dragged it to the garage, and put it in the trunk. She then proceeded to clean up, wash her clothes, and start dinner before Daniel made it home. As Daniel lay motionless, Karen finally uncuffed him, yet he was way too ill to get up. Then Karen went to the closet, opened it, and out fell none other than Mandy's dead body. Karen picked Mandy's body up and placed it on the bed next to Daniel. She had stripped Mandy of all of her clothes at the house before moving her body. So Mandy's deceased body lay there and nothing more than her panties and bra next to Daniel's nude, limp body, as if they had just been intimate. Karen placed the gun in Mandy's hands to stage the scene as a murder-suicide. She then removed all traces of herself being there, redressed, and left the adulterers there together. Karen then left for her business trip as planned, which she was to be away for a few days. And after about a week and no word or sign of anything, Karen then reported her husband as missing. By now, also Daniel's job had become worried and inquired about his absence as well. It was 3 weeks before Daniel and Mandy's bodies were found. After all the phone calls and messages, it didn't take long for detectives to find out about the 2-year affair between them. Karen played her role, crying and acting shocked by the news of her husband's death and affair. She assured detectives she had no idea, as she is often away on business, which was quickly confirmed. They never even suspected Karen at all. And the Black Widow went on with her life as normal. One day, while doing laundry, however, Karen found that old blood-stained shirt of Mandy's. She had no idea it was still there. Good thing the cops didn't search her home for clues. Nevertheless, Karen poured herself a glass of wine and she started a fire in the fireplace. Then she sat back sipping her wine as she watched Mandy's shirt burn, thinking to herself, this could have all been avoided, seeing as she actually knew about Daniel's affair well before the incident even happened. But unfortunately, casualties occur when a side piece doesn't know their place. Just then, the phone rang. It was Karen's longtime lover and business partner, Wally Ruthers. Laugh out loud. Life's a bitch, ain't it? The end. That concludes tonight's story time with Poetic Psychic Pisces, High Priestess. I hope you all enjoyed it. If so, please like, share, and subscribe. As always, as promised, I show you all the rough draft of my work. This was a long one, guys. Usually I try not to go more than like maybe, like that, not that many pages. This is like 20 pages long, okay? But all my work right here, okay? So, of course, like always, I show you all that. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you all for listening and watching once again. This is a fictional story, but it's truth in fiction, okay? Because these types of things actually goes on in the real world. And with a little plot twist at the end or whatever, it was very interesting and juicy to say the least. So I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you all for listening and for watching. If you all would like to contact me, you can do so at tiffanyziegler60@gmail.com or at tiff.diamond.36@gmail.com. If you prefer to contact me by phone, you can do so at 501-478-8035. Also, if there are any persons who would like to donate to the channel, it is greatly, greatly appreciated. You can do so through Cash App at $tiffdiamond36 or through PayPal at paypal.me/@36diamond. As always, y'all, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, but most of all, take care of your babies. There is wickedness in high places and there is evil that is lurking around every corner, even in a neighborhood near you. So watch your surroundings, watch the company you keep, watch the surroundings and the company in which your children are in, honey. And considering the fact that you never know when somebody may try you, betray you, or stab you in the back, keep you some protection on you, honey. Y'all stay awake, stay aware, stay vigilant, and stay prepared. Because if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready, baby. Until the next time, peace, love, and light. Namaste. I am that I am, created in the image of God.